dismissing the case. These cases are not meat and potato criminal cases. They're very novel cases. They raise all kinds of constitutional issues. And at the end of the day, the juice is not worth the squeeze.
Former Assistant U.S. Attorney Andrew McCarthy agrees.
I think the former Attorney General Barr is exactly right. And I also think, from what I can gather, that a sort of a deal is coming together, because everyone understands that President Biden is going to pardon his son, Hunter. That is not going to go down well, at least if it's in a vacuum, because, of course, he vowed that he wouldn't do it. Not that anyone took that too seriously. But I think it goes down easier for the country if it's kind of like a clemency package, where the Biden-Harris Justice Department dismisses the two cases against former President Trump, President-elect Trump, because they can't be prosecuted at this point anyhow. He'll be the sitting president of the United States. Then Biden pardons Hunter. And I think the signal that sends, hopefully, to these progressive prosecutors at the state level is that, it's time to turn the page from lawfare, which proved to be a disaster for the Democrats, I think, in the election.
The mainstream media swung and missed in another concerted effort to keep Orange Man Bad out of the White House. Now, once again, they have to try to pick up the pieces. Steve Jordahl reports.
A recent Gallup poll found that trust in the media remains at an all-time low. 7 out of 10 Americans have little or no trust in the mainstream media. Nevertheless, coming into the 2024 election, the media abandoned its journalistic responsibilities in order to act as a megaphone for the Democrat Party. For the most part, they seem blind to the problem, with CNN's Scott Jennings being the notable exception.
This election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true.
First, the candidate of joyful vibes was going to enchant the country to vote for her. Then a Trump-adjacent joke about Puerto Rico was going to be the end of Donald Trump. Then Liz Cheney endorsing Harris. Then Nikki Haley was going to pull critical support from the former president.
And we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election.
MRC's Bill D'Agostino says the media trotted out hoax after hoax. Fine people, bloodbath, shooting Liz Cheney, but none affected the count on Tuesday.
They tried these with a straight face, and everybody would pounce on them, and they would kind of sheepishly walk it back like a day or two later, and suddenly none of them would talk about it anymore.
He says maybe the mainstream media has outlived its usefulness.
They can't get Democrats into the White House, can't help Democrats keep the Senate, can't flip the House, and they're incapable of doing actual journalism. What purpose do they now serve? What good are they to anybody?
I'm Steve Jordahl.
American Family News is online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. We stand on the biblical truth that all human beings, including the unborn, are created in the image of God and are endowed by Him with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association. Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network for this Thursday, November the 7th. Thank you for listening to AFR. Joining me in studio is Fred Jackson. Good morning, Brother Fred.
Good morning, Tim.
Christopher Woodward.
Good morning.
And in Kansas City is Ray Pritchard. Good morning, Ray.
Hey, good morning, Tim. How you doing today?
Has fall arrived there yet?
Well, it's 47 degrees right now,
Okay.
so I think so. I think the 90s and even the 80s are gone until the springtime.
Yeah, we've been experiencing, what do you call it, Indian summer?
Yeah. Now we're Indian fall, soon to be Indian winter. The way it's going.
It's been really, in the South, it's been really warm. Maybe it's probably abnormally warm everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's shorts and T-shirt weather still here.
Yeah, it's really. I'm loving it. I told Allison the other day, I said, I feel like I'm living in Florida in the winter. Now, it's not, brutally cold here
No.
For what our friends in the north would call brutally cold, even in the winter. You typically, but to be 80 November the whatever it is, I'm just saying, I just giving thanks for global warming. That's all I'm doing right now. I'm loving it. All right, so if you're an outdoors person, and you do like, unless you're a deer hunter,
Yes.
they want it to get cold.
Yes.
And duck hunting.
Yes.
They want it to get cold.
Mm-hmm.
So my sons they love deer hunting.
Yeah.
And so they're looking forward to a couple weeks from now. All right, Ray, give us a good word from the scriptures this morning.
Okay, here we go. Got good news and bad news today, okay? But it's all right. It's from the Word of God. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. It says, but reject irreverent, silly myths. Okay, we'll do that. Then it says, instead, train yourself for godliness. Now, that's good news, that you don't have to stay the way you are. You can get better. And, that's one of the fundamental truths of Christianity. We say to anybody in the world, you do not have to stay the way you are, trapped in sin, trapped in darkness, trapped in patterns of life that have broken you and maybe messed up your marriage and messed up everything around you. You don't have to stay the way you are. Come to Jesus. You'll have a new life. Now, having said that, that's good news. The good news is anybody can be changed by Jesus. But if you want to become truly godly, it's kind of like losing weight, okay? I don't know about the rest of you, but I am a sucker for these ads on TV that say, take this pill, go get this supplement, and the pounds will come. They'll just disappear. And Paul says, no, if you want to become godly, there are no shortcuts. Let me just leave it right there. There are no shortcuts in the spiritual life. Just like if you want to lose the weight, you got to get up, you got to exercise, you got to train yourself. Nobody becomes godly by accident. You don't grow spiritually by accident. You grow spiritually because you use the means of grace that God has given you, which is scripture memory, which is prayer, which is worship, which is fellowship, which is sharing your faith with others and taking a stand for Jesus. And by the way, I got to give you this other verse. Paul, I don't know if Paul was into exercise much. Well, he walked hundreds of miles, but he said, but physical exercise is of limited value. Tim plays golf, I ride my bike, but godliness is valuable in every way. So while you're busy about everything else today, take some time to discipline your life spiritually. Read the Bible, pray, memorize a verse, sing some songs, fellowship with other believers. If you do that, you will grow spiritually, and you'll be strong in the face of the temptations that are all around us. So
Amen.
Is that good news? Fred, is this good news or is this bad news?
Oh, it's absolutely good news. Everything you've said is true. With me, everybody has their time of the day when they do their devotion. Now, some people are late at night people.
Yeah.
My brain goes fudgy after about 4 in the afternoon. So I tried to do it. People make fun of me. I get up around 3:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And, shave and get coffee ready and that sort of thing. But and I have my devotion around 4 o'clock from 4 to 4:30, somewhere in there. That's when my brain is the spongiest. I don't even know if that's a word, but that's when the brain is the spongiest, and it's just a great way to start the day. Another thing I do, if it's a nice clear morning, I love go out and look at the stars. And you know what? It just reminds me when I look at those stars, nothing man can do today can change where those stars are and who's in control.
Yeah.
Nothing man can do can mess that up. And
Amen.
so it's exciting. It's a great way. It puts your spirit in the right sense. Then I come into work and I start reading political stuff.
Right. And it's downhill after that.
But I keep reminding myself, hey, listen, God's still in control.
Yeah.
No matter what the man is doing.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right, so what verses were you referencing there for those?
That's 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 and 8. 1 Timothy 4, 7 and 8.
What was the first phrase that you read there, the first one?
Well, it says, but reject irreverent, silly myths, which the world is full of, and then train yourself for godliness.
Okay. That's a good theme for a political party.
What?
Reject silly myths.
Reject.
Yeah. Yeah. So, thing about the scripture is, especially there all through the scripture, you said it says train yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's up to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's up to the individual to either train themselves for godliness or not.
Yep.
Is that right?
That's right. 100%.
So then that is saying that's a choice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm just saying that, as you read through the Bible, it comes. I know there are different theological perspectives on life on earth for humans and our relationship to God, even within the Christian family. But over and over and over, I'm seeing it's your choice.
Yeah.
It's your choice today, tomorrow, on what you will do and how you will behave and how you will.
Yeah. God in His sovereignty decided to give us choice.
Right.
But God in His sovereignty says there are consequences.
Both good and bad.
To what we choose, yes.
Yeah. If we choose good,
yeah.
But anyway, train yourself for godliness. So there you go. The admonition there from 1 Timothy, you say?
1 Timothy 4, 7, and 8. Listen, it was Abraham Lincoln who said, most people are about as happy as they want to be. Well, there's a lot of truth in that. And most Christians are about as close to the Lord as they want to be, because if they wanted to be closer, they would get up and they would train themselves for godliness. So the good news is you can develop a deeper walk with God, but there's a price to pay. There's a choice you have to make, and you got to make it every single day.
Yeah.
Amen.
All right, Chris, bring us down.
Yes, that's what I'm here for. Hey, speaking of Lincoln, yesterday was the anniversary of him being elected president in 1860.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And today is the anniversary of George W. Bush being elected, and we all know how that went down. Aren't you glad that we're not in that situation today in 2024?
So the first Tuesday in November has always been. Is that right? Election day. You said today is the anniversary of what? Abraham Lincoln.
George W. Bush being elected president. Yesterday was the anniversary of Lincoln being elected president.
Okay. Well, it must have
according
been.
to Britannica.
What I'm saying is it must have been the first Tuesday in November, National Election Day, for a long, long time.
Yes. Inauguration Day used to be later than it currently is. I want to say it was in late winter, very early spring back in the day.
I think in March sometime, right?
Okay, so they moved that up. That's been moved up.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So Vice President Kamala Harris did give a concession speech yesterday. President Biden.
Did she do it joyfully?
She did.
She's the minister of joy.
Yeah, she is. Speaking of the Biden-Harris administration, we are awaiting some sort of comments from President Joe Biden. He's about 14 minutes behind right now, but he is supposed to speak within this hour. Looks like they're going to do it outside the White House. All the TV channels are following that. But for the time being, we'll play some audio from Vice President Kamala Harris's concession speech. I have two sound bites here. We aired both of these last night, so some people that listen to us have heard these. But for those who missed it or just want to hear it again, let's begin with this one. It's Vice President Kamala Harris urging Democrats and other supporters to stay politically active and keep fighting. Clip one.
My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright.
Okay.
As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting.
All right, so that's one clip. To the all-important question of will she handle the peaceful transition over to President-elect Donald Trump, she said this. Clip two.
Folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Well, good for her. Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know what else you would expect, Ray, but still good to hear those words.
She said what she needed to say. It's not easy, right? Leaving politics aside,
right.
It's not easy to give a concession speech when you have, again, leaving ideology, everything else aside, when you have spent your lifeblood, so to speak, out there, and to be rejected, frankly, it's a decisive rejection. It's she lost. This wasn't close, right, Tim? It was not a close election in terms of the Electoral College. She got swept away in the Rust Belt, so it's not easy. I thought she did as well as anybody in her position could do.
Fred?
Yeah, it was the appropriate speech for yesterday, but I'll tell you, as she was speaking, even before she got up to speak, it was the night of the long knives from people within her own party. People within her own party, of course, are now casting blame. They're not casting blame at Donald Trump and the Republicans. They are casting blame at their own. And I think, Chris, that you've got some people who worked on the Harris campaign.
Yes.
Are now saying we made some big mistakes.
Yes. I've got a couple of clips here. Let's begin with this one. It's a lady that some people may have seen for the past 24, 48 hours on Fox News Channel. Her name is Lindy Lee. Lindy is a Pennsylvania native, and she was a Harris surrogate, but she's been on Fox virtually all their programs talking about the problems that the Kamala Harris campaign had and even brought on itself. Let's begin with this one. Here's Lindy Lee, clip 3.
We had expected to at least cling on to one or two of the blue wall states, but unfortunately it was a full sweep. We were hoping for Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Nebraska, the 2nd Congressional District. So needless to say, it was basically, if anyone has seen Game of Thrones, it was a red wedding. It was a bloodbath. So everyone is in a state of shock. The gender gap that we were pining for did not materialize to the extent, in a meaningful extent, and obviously youth and Latinos and African Americans, a lot of them went over to Trump. So there's going to be a lot of soul searching in the next couple of days. I hope that we can do an honest assessment and not criticize the people who have ideas and solutions about how we can move forward, because if we do not acknowledge the rightward turn of America, we're going to keep losing.
Now, to make things worse for President or Vice President Harris there, I've also got audio from Bob Brady. He worked for the Democrat Party there in Philadelphia, and Brady told Fox's Brian Yennis that he never saw or heard from Harris leading up to the vote in Pennsylvania, specifically Philly. Clip 4.
For the national campaign, nothing, zero. They had no respect. They had no coordination. They didn't talk. I never even had a conversation with the lady. They didn't even do the right thing as far as giving us the resources that we need, and they want to blame us. And now I understand somebody ever came was blaming Joe Biden. Can you imagine blaming Joe Biden for her loss? She lost. He didn't lose.
Based on your experience in Philadelphia, do you think that it is indicative of how this campaign was run nationwide?
It kind of seems that way, don't it? I mentioned our collar counties. They didn't give them any respect. They were screaming and hollering for signs. They didn't get them to the last minute.
Who's that gentleman?
That's Bob Brady.
He's actually the head of the Democratic effort there in the city of Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a true Philadelphia voice.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't do it.
Tremendous.
Yeah, but he's saying that the Harris campaign failed to work with them and communicate with them, and in a very key area, in Pennsylvania. He's the guy who would have done it.
And he was very upset in another portion of that interview. He was really upset with the Harris campaign. He says they went to Scranton, one of their last rallies the day before the election.
Yeah.
They went to Scranton, and he was really upset because Joe Biden was not invited. And you know Joe Biden's connection with Scranton, Pennsylvania. And he says they didn't even invite the president to go there and be on the stage with Kamala Harris. So there's a lot of bitterness. The first person you heard from, Ms. Lee, Others are saying the same thing, and it's very interesting. They say the Democratic Party has got to recognize the reality that the United States of America is a center-right, and this is the phrase they're using, a center-right country. Now, what she didn't explain what she meant by that, but I'm thinking that the Democratic Party has to figure out, okay, Kamala Harris went strong on the whole transgender agenda, for instance. She is saying the United States as a whole is not buying into the transgender, let boys into girls' bathrooms, let boys play on girls' teams. And they've got to back away from that. They also, I think they have to realize that the American people overall are really upset with what happened at the border security. And they don't want more big government programs. So I think all of those, are what these Democrats are saying is that they've got to rethink their policies, rethink their message to the American people.
Yeah, but that's, I would agree with a good self-analysis after a defeat like this is important to, figuring out where you go and how you win again. However, the Democrats, at least half their party or more than half their party, don't believe they're doing anything wrong. And they believe that borders are immoral, for example. So you talk about building walls and closing the border to illegal immigrants, they're going to tell you, no. We need to let them keep coming. Huh? Yeah. I mean, and so that's what Harris and Biden did for the last 4 years. They just said, "Y'all come. We're going to remove any restraints." So I say that because that was intentional. Because that's what they believe in. They don't believe in. You've heard it. Walls are immoral. I've heard that by some of the Democrats. So I don't know. Has James Carville spoken? Because I just couldn't wait to hear what the guy from Louisiana had to say.
I just Googled him, and he blames Democrats' losses on woke-era politics. That's a headline in Newsweek.
He's right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of walls, both
Good for
Lindy
him.
Lee and I believe even Bob Brady yesterday on Fox said that Harris made a mistake by picking Walz and not Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro debate with J.D.
Is it
Vance.
Shapiro or Shapiro?
Shapiro. I'm from the South.
I
just
wanted to trying to
multiple
get a correct
syllables.
pronunciation.
But Shapiro would have done better in a debate with Vance than Walz did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the reason that Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, wasn't picked was because he's a Jew. And they got a lot of anti-Semites in the Democrat Party right now.
How sad.
Huh?
Sad. You ask yourself the question, Tim. This Tim Walz, okay, that wasn't a trendy pick. It wasn't a smart pick. And I'm sitting here scratching my head. Can you guys think of anything he added to the ticket? I can't think of. I mean, in retrospect, no, zero.
Didn't even get the football coach vote.
No.
I don't think.
And I mean,
we didn't.
Like you pointed out, Tim, he comes from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota was not a threat to the Democratic
Party. No, they were going to
Party.
vote blue anyway. Yeah, so she would have done Harris that would. If she would have picked the governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro, she probably would have won Pennsylvania, and that would have been a big deal.
Yes.
And maybe that may have led to picking up another Midwestern state, upper Midwestern state or not, or, as Ray called them, Rust Belt. I don't know. I think the loss of the Democrats, if you want to look at that if you want to analyze what Trump did right, we can do that later. But what they did wrong was self-inflicted because she was chosen as Biden's vice president because she was a woman of color. Okay, they had to check the boxes. Okay, not is she the best candidate to be vice president of the United States, but Biden said, I want a woman of color. Okay, that was, you know what I'm saying? Now, not that she didn't have some credentials. Harris did. She was AG, a statewide office in California. She was a United States senator. I mean, she wasn't working at a restaurant, a local restaurant, cooking burgers, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying she had worked her way up, so she wasn't out of nowhere. But still, she was the reason why she was dead last.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Dead last among Democrats in the primary, and you pick her to be your VP, and she's from California. Yeah. Democrats are already going to win California, so that was a big mistake. And then the other mistake was, I mentioned not picking the governor of Pennsylvania to be her running mate. But they couldn't do that because he was a Jew.
Yes.
So when I say self-inflicted by the Democrats, they just put them, their own forced ideology put them in a behind the eight ball,
yep,
so to speak, which is a ball of color, if you know anything about pool.
Yeah.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Fred, Chris, and Ray. Next story.
Let's do a little bit of meltdown from the liberal media. They're continuing to do that, and our Steve Jordahl is continuing to follow their meltdowns. Let's play a little bit of various people on the left melting down or losing their mind.
Is this good? We need to. If you're driving down the road, you need to pull over for this.
No, you should be fine.
Okay.
Clip 6.
Okay, go.
I'm profoundly disturbed. I'm worried about mass deportation and internment camps. What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding.
These guys on the other side inevitably start picking off individual journalists, individual publishers, individual news organizations to try ultimately to turn us all into some American accented version of RT.
Can't help but wonder if the American people have given up on democracy.
I'd like to know what that says about us as a country.
The first two people to appear there were Sonny Hostin and Rachel Maddow.
Well,
frequent voices on this show.
I'm just going to invoke the saying we have here in the South. Bless their hearts. Bless their hearts. They're in mourning now, and understandably so. All right, let's take our break right now, if we can, Adam. So was that Whoopi Goldberg I was hearing there?
No.
Okay. She's on The View, right?
She is on The View, and I'm sure she will be featured again very soon.
Has Oprah spoken on this?
Probably.
I want to know, did any celebrities say, I'm leaving the U.S. if Trump's elected? Because
several did.
It's time to send the U-Haul over. Huh? Several did?
Several, yeah.
I know they did in 2016. You remember the ones, huh?
I'll find a list.
All right, you find that list. We'll be back momentarily with more. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
And as you wish that men would do to you, do so to them. The words of our Lord. Anthony Pino, age 9, came running into his home one afternoon, shouting to his mother that his 3 older brothers had fallen into a pond and needed help. It happened when one of the brothers, Reuben, jumped on a plank floating in the pond north of Walsenburg, Colorado, and paddled away from the shore. He lost balance and fell into the pond. Reuben, who was 12, called for help. 2 other brothers, Freddie, 13, and Richard, 10, both went into the pond to save Reuben. Since none of the boys could swim, Anthony ran home to get help. Mrs. Fred Pino picked up the phone to call for help. 2 people were talking on the party line. Miss Pino explained the situation to them and asked them to please hang up so that she could call for help for her boys. The other 2 people refused to hang up. They laughed and ridiculed Miss Pino. She begged them to please get off the line, that her boys were drowning. They refused to do so, continued to laugh and ridicule. Another lady in the home with Miss Pino took the receiver, spoke to the other 2 people, told them again what had happened, and asked them to please let Mrs. Pino make the phone call for help. She, too, was met with a similar answer. You know, reading such a story, one wonders how any 2 people could be so cruel and heartless. A mother pleading for only the use of a phone for a few moments in order to call for help for her drowning sons, was laughed at, ridiculed, refused. The story isn't new. As much as we talk about the goodness of man, there remains always the evilness and sinfulness of man. Our Heavenly Father knows something about this type of sinfulness. While he was pleading and begging people to listen, they were intent on carrying his son to the crucifixion site. While he attempted to be heard, they laughed and ridiculed him. Just common courtesy would have dictated that one should share a party line with one's neighbor. And certainly, knowing of one in Ms. Pino's situation, common courtesy would have said to be of all the help you can. But then not everyone cares about common courtesy. There's still selfishness and hatefulness and sinfulness in the world. For thousands of years, our Father's been trying to get us, all of us, to treat each other like our brothers. And for an equal number of years, we've been refusing. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Stupid, silly, out of date, childish. Some people evidently think so. At least they don't think it applies to them. I wish those people could speak with Freddie or Reuben or Richard. Unfortunately, they cannot. They'll have to speak with Mrs. Pino. You see, Freddie, Reuben, and Richard are all dead. They drowned. Do unto others. Think about it the next time your brother is in need. And if you fail to act on it, for your own sake, ask for forgiveness.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29:13.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Welcome back, everybody. Tim, Fred, Chris, and Ray, and we thank you for listening to AFR. Well, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, just spoke from the White House regarding the election results on Tuesday. Is that right, Chris?
He did.
Do you have something?
Steve is in the process of uploading a clip for us.
Okay. Anyway, Fred, he spoke, just a few minutes?
He spoke, about 5 minutes or so. He talked about, there'll be a peaceful transfer of power. So he was very benevolent there. And we already know that he's invited incoming President Trump over to the White House to help in the transition. So he said the expected of a president who has just lost the election.
Okay, Ray, we talked before the election that now I wanted Trump to win, and but I was thinking one way or another, whether it's Trump or Harris, I wanted it to be decisive, so that there was no waiting on judges to decide who's going to be the next president, because we're waiting on a county and three counties in Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia to you know what I'm saying? That just puts everybody on pins and needles. Conspiracy theories start running wild, and people just get anxious about it. So it's better that you look up at the scoreboard and you go, that team won by 3 touchdowns. So there was no doubt who won the day.
Look, I think Trump's strategy was just brilliant. I read somewhere where they decided to front load, do an East Coast strategy, put their money and resources, especially in the 3 states, Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, for exactly, Tim, the reason you suggested, that you don't want a national election to be waiting on Clark County in Nevada or Maricopa County in Arizona.
Right.
So they came up with this East Coast strategy. Take Georgia, which they did. Take North Carolina, which they did. Take Pennsylvania, which they did. And that's why, even though we're still waiting for some Senate results from Arizona and Nevada, the president's race was settled on Tuesday night.
Chris, who won Nevada and did Trump win Nevada and Arizona?
He did.
Fred?
It depends on the news outlet that you watch. Newsmax has called those. Newsmax has called the entire country. Fox was still waiting out on a couple of states early going into the break. Nevada and Arizona have yet to be called by Fox, but Trump is leading in both of those states. So it depends on the news outlet.
What about the Senate race in Nevada?
The Senate race in Nevada right now, the incumbent Democrat is winning. There, likewise in Arizona.
Okay. Well, if you're a Democrat, you need to keep those Senate seats. Otherwise, it's just going to be, it's not going to be. You're not going to have a quorum.
Yeah, we don't have the result in Pennsylvania yet, but McCormick, the Republican challenger, is ahead by about 30,000 votes.
Yeah.
That's
So-
and Casey, the Democrat incumbent, we are told is already raising money to do a legal challenge of some type.
So just if the Senate got less play than the presidential race, but the Democrats had incumbents in Pennsylvania and in Ohio and in Wisconsin that they were counting on winning, and they've lost two of them for certain. That is, the Republicans won in Wisconsin and they won in Ohio, and they're ahead in Pennsylvania. Looks like McCormick will win there, so that would be three Republicans taking over Democrat incumbent seats in the Senate.
That Ohio is really a feather in the cap for Republicans. They've
Yes.
long wanted Sherrod Brown gone.
What I wonder what will happen if Ray. What do you think will happen if somebody's got to take J.D. Vance's place in the Senate?
Oh, yeah. And it'll be a Republican, obviously, because they have a Republican governor there. Will it be somebody as conservative and strong and clear as J.D. Vance? Oh, I doubt that. But it'll be a safe Republican vote. And by the way, Tim, in Montana, remember, John Tester.
Oh, that's right.
John Tester went down as Sheehy,
Yes.
the Republican.
That was
What's
another
that say?
flip for the Republicans on the Democrats. Go ahead, Fred.
It is very interesting you bring up Ohio because there is some talk that the Republican governor there may
DeWine?
DeWine may pick Vivek Ramaswamy to fill the JD. But Vivek Ramaswamy, we are told, maybe doesn't want that.
Vivek Ramaswamy in the Senate, that doesn't work.
No.
He has ADD. And
A
in
floor
good,
speech
no,
would
no,
be
in a
big.
good way. That's why he's a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
The guy's highly intelligent, but he's
Isn't he a prospect for the cabinet? Maybe?
Oh,
Or
yes.
Somewhere
Now,
in the administration?
Here's the gossip. Here's the political
All right, give
gossip
us the
in
gossip.
Ohio.
Give us the
Political gossip in Ohio is DeWine, the governor, wants to put Vivek Ramaswamy in the Senate because he is worried that Vivek Ramaswamy may run for governor next time around in Ohio. So he
wants to boot him upstairs,
wants
so to speak.
Basically,
get him out of the way. That's the political gossip.
I can tell you some other cabinet positions possibly.
Okay. I tell you what, let's hear the Biden clip.
Okay.
This is Joe Biden at the White House about half an hour ago, right?
Oh, just in the last 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, so we'll hear what he has to say, then we can come back and pick up on these potential cabinet positions for Trump. Go ahead.
America has carried on the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact. We're the people. The people vote and choose their own leaders, and they do it peacefully. And we're in a democracy. The will of the people always prevails. Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve. I know for some people, it's a time for victory, to state the obvious. For others, it's a time of loss. We accept the choice the country made.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
That was an appropriate address from sitting president of the opposing party who lost on Tuesday.
Very different tone from what he was referring to Trump followers a few days ago.
Right.
Garbage.
Oh,
garbage.
Yeah.
Boy,
Trash.
was that a mistake.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was the apostrophe, Fred.
Unforced errors in politics will always amaze me.
Especially 3 days before the vote.
I know. What in the world? I mean,
and it's just a pure sidelight, guys. I still want to know, and we don't really know. Will we ever know what happened in that weekend back in July when Nancy Pelosi and whoever else strong-armed him out of the race? I mean, we really don't know, do we?
We don't, but it's going to make a great book.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, somebody's going to need money now.
The Democrat Party right now is in complete disarray, as we've talked about here. They don't seem to have any leadership. Now, maybe somebody will emerge that is going to, be Moses for them, right? Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, I don't think so.
No.
Huh? No, I don't think so.
If America's moving to the right, Newsom cannot possibly be their leader.
Yeah, and then California, they've had their own problems because of the progressive movement there with high taxation, regulation, high crime. By the way, did y'all see that, is it the district attorney in Los Angeles?
Gascon.
He got voted out.
He did.
And he was the one who was letting all the criminals out and run free.
Yeah, he just made the big announcement involving the Menendez brothers, where their sentence might be commuted.
Yeah, he's a bleeding heart, and as liberal as Los Angeles, I guess county is, county or city, they voted him out. So that was interesting. So I think even liberal people are getting tired of runaway crime.
Well, yeah, and they just passed Measure 36 on Tuesday. Measure 36 in California is to get tough on crime and to stop letting these.
Right.
They were allowing people who they could steal up to $995.
Where's that?
In California.
Okay.
And these liberal reforms were brought in 2014. Guess who the Attorney General of California was in 2014?
Harris?
Kamala Harris.
Wow. Okay. Well, you can steal up to how much? Now I need to know this because I may visit there next year.
I think it was like $900.
Okay. Do you
at
have
one
to?
time.
Do you have to take your stolen goods up to scan them?
No, they just according to many
make sure
videos,
you're under
they just
1,000,
walked out with it.
right?
Well, that's what I'm saying, Ray. If you can get away with under 1,000, you need to know, when you're getting close to that limit.
If you steal too much, you can get some of it back, so you stay under the limit.
But those reforms were brought in under Kamala Harris, and the reasons they say the reforms were brought in because too many poor people were going to jail for stealing up these hundreds of dollars worth of stuff. So they wanted to make sure.
See, that's that crazy, secular, progressive, nutty philosophy where you apply what do you call it? You apply identity politics to crime.
Yeah.
And so you say, well, we can't prosecute somebody because they may be of a low income. Or a certain ethnicity, so we're going to have to back off. Well, then you put them back on the street and endanger everybody, and then you get what you got in these big liberal cities. You got out of control and even violent crime.
It was really interesting on this 36 that was voted on in California on Tuesday. About 5 days before, when the Dodgers won the World Series, in California, there were bad people who decided to celebrate that by breaking into stores and stealing stuff. 5 days before they were voted on 36.
Did they keep it under $1,000? That would be my question. If you go into a jewelry store, you're probably going to hit that pretty quick.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Fred, Chris, and Ray. Oh, so now we'll start hearing discussion about who President-elect Trump will have on his team, on his coaching staff, so to speak.
Yes.
All right, what are we talking about
Well,
here?
this is according to a Fox News story, which could be wrong. But this morning, Fox News reported that the Trump transition team is already starting about filling positions, and a few familiar faces could be returning to the Trump administration.
Hold on a second. I've been having, excuse me, Chris,
Okay.
but there's
Deep
a good
tease.
reason I'm introducing. We've had Alex sitting by for 10 minutes now. Alex McFarland from North Carolina. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, everybody.
Okay, I'm going to go back to this, Alex, and then you can dive in here, okay?
Sure.
Yeah, you're not mad at us for keeping you.
No,
waiting.
I'm enjoying listening.
Okay, all right.
I'll
Go
make
ahead,
it
Chris.
quick.
Go ahead, Chris.
All right, some of the faces that may be returning to the next Trump administration would be Ben Carson at the Housing of Urban Development, or HUD. Betsy DeVos could be returning as Energy Secretary.
I thought she was education.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I wrote it down wrong. Mike Pompeo would be returning, but as Defense Secretary. And again, this is all according to Fox.
It's speculation.
It is speculation. Now, Mike Pompeo was Secretary of State towards the end of the Trump administration, so this would be a new position for Mike Pompeo. Supposedly, Senator Marco Rubio is in the running for Secretary of State. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum might be the Energy or Interior Secretary, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., according to Fox this morning, might be in running for Secretary of Agriculture or the head of Health and Human Services, otherwise known as HHS. The liberal media, we will bring in a montage of liberal media meltdown if RFK Jr. is appointed the head of things that decide shots.
Alex, what do you think about all this?
Well, I'm just praising God because we're getting leadership for our country. There are adults in the room now.
So let me ask you this: Marco Rubio's his name been?
Yes, for Secretary of State. That would be interesting because DeSantis, do you appoint somebody or do you ascend the?
Oh, you mean for
the ranks?
If Marco Rubio, the Republican senator,
of Florida,
Alex from Florida, leaves the Senate and goes to be Secretary of State, like you're talking about, for President Trump, then who becomes the senator for Florida? I would think maybe Governor DeSantis would appoint himself because he's only got like 2 years left as governor. That's a possibility, I guess.
Would they have a special election for another governor? That would be risky.
What's that?
Yeah, Democrats would love to flip that state for sure.
Florida ain't being flipped, my friends. It's gone. Florida ain't ever going back to being Democrat again. I don't think they. Did you see the margin, Ray, where Trump won in Florida?
Enormous.
Well, it was just like DeSantis won 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was enormous. It's not even. It's like 60-40 or something like that.
Florida is in no sense a swing state.
No, Florida's red now.
Yeah.
By the way, I read this morning at least 22% of Jewish voters voted for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, that's huge, not only for Florida, but for the upper Northeast, that the stronghold the Democrat Party has had on the Jewish vote seems to have been broken.
Listen, the Republicans and namely Trump, they won more votes from these demographics than any other Republican ever. And that would be Jews, and that would be Hispanics, and that would be blacks, and that would be I don't know any other. I'm trying
and
to
think. The evangelical Christian black vote.
You got that breakdown?
I don't have the exact number, but of black males and even black clergy, and this is huge. Now, it might take a while for the crumbling to continue, but let me say that the Democrats are in the process of losing huge amounts of voters that they have owned for decades.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, I think because people still have common sense and people care about things like gender and marriage and morals. And also, let me say what a group of young black men, when I was at the RNC, and I was there in Milwaukee for 4 days, and speaking, broadcasting, I was it was great. Some dear people at Fox let me set up, Mike Lindell and myself, we set up the Comrex, and I was doing AFR content from the Fox booth in the media pit at the RNC convention. But I saw a group of...
Did you have a pillow?
Yeah, he gave me a pillow to lean back on.
Okay.
Super nice guy. But here's the thing. I was talking to like 24 black men that I'm going to say they were 30, 31 years old. And they they had on all of their MAGA hats, and some were delegates. But this young black man said to me, he said, "We are tired of being useful to the Democrat Party." And that's a verbatim quote. And I said, wow, that's huge. Mm-hmm. I mean,
Yeah, I think President Trump won 20% of the. Did he win 20% of the black vote? Or
I believe
black
it
male?
was. But another reason, particularly young black males, went Republican this time, I am told, is that on the transgender issue, they were not willing to go along with that. That was one of the reasons.
Yeah, the Democrats got so far out there on some of this stuff. They just thought they could ramrod it across America, and it was a backlash, big backlash against you know what they were trying to do there with especially pushing girls, pushing boys, being allowed to play girls' sports and go into girls' locker rooms and showers, and Americans are supposed to be okay with that. And the Democrats are saying, yeah, you need to be okay with that. Either you're a transphobe.
Yeah.
And
that costs them with white women, too.
Yeah. I have posted on our Today's Issues Facebook page an AP story, Associated Press story, on how various demographics voted for the candidates in this election. According to the Associated Press, Trump's share of black voters rose, driven largely by younger men. Slightly more Hispanic voters supported Trump. Narrow gains with women benefited Trump. Trump saw an increase with men. Trump won with a lot of people.
You know what? Also, the abortion issue, while it worked for the Democrats in 2022, I would agree, it did not work this time, and it won't work in the future because the issue has been decided already at the Supreme Court, and it's at a state level, and so everybody gets to vote in every state on what the laws should be regarding abortion. And Trump's not going to initiate some kind of a national abortion ban like Kamala Harris said he was going to do, trying to scare a lot of people. So it's just that's not going to play anymore as a major issue for Democrats to drive out voters. I just don't, and I think that played a part this time too. People who may call themselves pro-choice, they didn't factor in abortion as much because it doesn't affect them. I mean, it's not a top tier issue any longer. And the Democrats tried to scare women into saying, you know, your reproductive rights are that's what they call it, at jeopardy here. And I was thinking nobody's buying that. Nope. Nobody's buying it. Maybe girls 20 to 25 were buying it, but nobody's really buying that anymore because people are seeing that when Roe versus Wade was overturned, all that did really was turn the issue back to the states. It didn't outlaw or ban abortion nationwide.
And you know what? Of the women, some females indicated they were going to vote for Kamala Harris as a show of solidarity for abortion rights or something. And there's nothing Kamala Harris could have done about abortion.
No, and that's why that takes a big issue away from the Democrats. Also, when Trump gets to appoint replacements for Supreme Court justices, we're not going to have any big hearings where Roe versus Wade is the main issue that the nominee needs to tell us what you feel about that, how you feel about that, because that's already been decided in the Dobbs decision. So it's going to be clear say. Plus, Trump's going to have 52, 53, 54, perhaps, who knows, Republican senators. So he's going to get every Supreme Court justice that comes available. Trump's going to get to appoint whoever he wants, and there'll be no way Democrats can even stop him, even if they pull out somebody from 25 years ago who said he sexually harassed me, like with Kavanaugh. Remember that story? So Trump's going to get all the judges he wants through the federal bench. This is critically important. This was one of the big issues, and it's a big deal that the Senate is going to be 52, 53, 54 for him as he appoints judges. You're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on American Family Radio. What do you think the top two? What do you think people in Israel are thinking right now, Alex, generally speaking?
Well, I think Netanyahu's remarks to Trump congratulating him are probably reflective of the majority of people in Israel, of relief, Netanyahu indicated he felt like prayers were answered. And I just thought it was beautiful and wonderful that, as far as I'm aware, the first international leader to congratulate Trump in the wee hours of the morning of November 6th was Netanyahu in Israel.
All right, Ray, I know you've traveled to the Ukraine. How many times?
Been there twice before the war, not since the war started.
Have you ever been to Ukraine, Alex?
No, sir.
Or you just don't want to tell us?
No, I've never been. Love to go. I actually love to go to Russia and the Ukraine too. But
yeah.
Bert and I actually were invited to go, but we haven't gone.
Okay, but you went over there, Ray, to speak at a Bible college
right,
or something?
A couple times at Bible Institute right outside of Kyiv. I thought it was really interesting, Mr. Putin, right after they announced that Trump had won, that he said he's going to be in touch with the president-elect to talk about a peace to end this war. So this is the power of putting the adults back in the room, as Alex said.
So are you saying, Putin said publicly that he wants to talk to Trump about ending the war?
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. That's right. That's
wow.
a big deal.
Yeah. Wow. That is.
And again, there's been some gossip that what Trump may propose is giving a segment of what now is eastern Ukraine to Russia.
Yeah. Now, Zelensky, I just saw a video, but it was an old video, I think, of Trump walking with Zelensky. Has he made a public statement or said anything, or has anybody heard?
Not that I'm aware of.
Somebody just ran the top right of the television here. I'm not sure which network it is. It may be CNN, I think.
CNN.
They claim that Zelensky says he and Trump had a, quote, productive talk.
Okay.
Believe CNN.
Well, this is going to be the first big international issue that Trump's going to have to deal with, because you remember Trump said, I can solve this war in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Hey
guys, I got to say this
on the phone. So
forgive me for jumping in, but January 20th, 1981, Reagan was sworn in as president. The hostages had been over 400 days in captivity. Literally, like minutes after Reagan was sworn in, they were released. It's going to be that way with the Ukraine war. This thing is going to end quickly, I predict.
Well, may it be so. A lot of suffering has taken place in the Ukraine in particular, but also the Russians, a lot of Russians didn't want to go to war with Ukraine, but when you got a dictator like Putin, there's not much you can do about it. Huh?
Yep.
All right, we'll be back after this short timeout. Chris, thank you.
Thank you.
Fred, Ray, and Alex, you want to hang around? You got to go pick peanuts.
I can stay if you want me to. I can stay.
Yeah, just stay because we were late getting you on.
Sure, thank you.
So I'll make it up to you there. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
All God asks of you is faithfulness. Headlines in USA Today. Did you see it this morning? All the odds against us. Faithfulness is the word.
There's a place for you on the battle line. Engage in the fight for America's families. Visit AFA.net and then take your position. A message from the American Family Association.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. President-elect Donald Trump is moving on from the campaign phase and shifting his attention to filling his cabinet. Bill Malusian has more from West Palm Beach, Florida.
They are certainly ready. They're winding down with their celebration phase. Now they want to get to work, and that starts with making picks for the future Trump cabinet, and the transition team says they're well underway with that. They say in part, quote, in the days and weeks ahead, President Trump will be selecting personnel to serve our nation under his leadership and enact policies that make the life of Americans affordable, safe, and secure. Excuse me. Now, some of the names being tossed out for potential cabinet picks include North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, previous primary opponents, obviously Elon Musk as well, and then RFK Jr.
Republicans will retake control of the Senate from Democrats and are likely to keep control of the House of Representatives, despite many races not being called yet. New York Congressman Mike Lawler says he and his colleagues will have a great opportunity to help address the issues that most Americans are concerned about.
Voters want us to focus on the issues that are impacting their families most acutely, and that is the economy, that is the border, that is the international crises that we're seeing, energy policy. And I think we are going to hit the ground running come January. Those first 100 days are going to be critical.
Trump transition team member Tulsi Gabbard telling Fox News that even though President Trump is once again the president-elect, there is still an effort in Washington to stop him from exercising his authority.
People can only be manipulated for so long, and I think they're starting to see that the truth about Donald Trump is that he never needed this job. He ran for president of the United States because he loves this country. He has sacrificed nearly everything, including almost sacrificing his life.
Vice President Kamala Harris delivered a concession speech after Trump won the election. South Dakota Republican Governor Kristi Noem reacting to the vice president's remarks.
I thought her speech was depressing. It continued to be divisive and dark, and that's not what the American people want right now. Listen, they voted for President Trump overwhelmingly. Overwhelmingly, women and more women in this country voted for President Trump. More Hispanics voted for President Trump. We saw all different age groups, more of them come home to President Trump because he was talking about things that they cared about.
Pro-lifers in Missouri are down, but not out. Chris Woodward explains.
10 states had right-to-abortion initiatives in this election. A few of them failed, but others passed. And Missouri is one of the states where pro-abortion efforts were successful. Susan Klein of Missouri Right to Life.
Even though the results are not what we had hoped for, it's not the end of our mission. We must be the voice for those who have no voice, especially now. It's really just the beginning of our battle here in Missouri to restore protection to the unborn and to women and babies in our state. So while this battle is lost, there are pro-life Missourians that are going to continue to fight, and we encourage people to go to our website, MissouriLife.org.
Klein says her organization is going to be looking at this from many perspectives. For example, they will examine legal challenges, bills, and rally in the Capitol.
We will let our legislators know that we want Missouri to be a pro-life state where babies and families can thrive together. So, take a breath. It is a sad day. However, we will rise again, and we will move forward and make Missouri a pro-life state again. And we will work to protect babies and help families see the value of every life.
I'm Chris Woodward.
A fast-moving wildfire in California has burned more than 14,000 acres and is continuing to threaten densely populated areas. William Lajeunesse has the latest from Camarillo, California.
This is the most dangerous fire we've seen in Southern California in about 6 years, not because it's big, but because it's moving so fast. Thousands evacuated, 70,000 without power in 6 counties, and about 40 to 50 homes destroyed. We had 80-mile-an-hour gusts yesterday. That's a Cat 1 hurricane. So it turns a brush fire into a blowtorch. It was teared through multiple neighborhoods here in Ventura County, about 1 hour northwest of Los Angeles. And with those winds, firefighters cannot directly attack with hoses or hand crews or bulldozers.
More news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty P.
Streaming.afa.net has now become AFA Stream, and you can find it at stream.afa.net. You see, we removed the letters ing. Our experts have determined that eliminating those 3 keystrokes, multiplied over hundreds of thousands of AFA Stream visits, could reduce the national debt and maybe increase the gross domestic product. AFA Stream, formerly streaming.afa.net. Improvements to the economy are purely theoretical. Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildmon, president of the American Family Association.
Welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR on this Thursday, November the 7th, right, Fred?
That is correct.
Fred Jackson in studio. We got 2 remote guys. We got Ray Pritchard up in Kansas City, and we got Alex McFarland in North Carolina. And now in studio with us is Steve Jordahl. Steve, I call him Steve Johnny Cash Jordahl. He's donning the all black today.
Yeah, so I still am a Paisley guy at heart, but I have a concert tonight in Columbus, Mississippi. If anybody's down there and has some free time, it's a free concert. Donations
Are you a
accepted.
country singer? What are you?
No, it's a choral concert.
A choral concert,
It's
like the
Golden
ocean?
Triangle Singers. Like what?
Like the ocean?
Choral. No, with an H.
Oh, that kind. My bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
thought maybe y'all were singing by the sea or something.
We might.
Like that.
No, good choral classical music, and so this is our. We're instructed to dress in all black.
I got
It looks.
Have you ever fell into a ring of fire though?
No, but I have walked around them.
All right, so Steve Jordahl in studio with us. All right, Steve, you wanted to mention what was the first story you had here?
Well, if you want to go back, if we just for a second to go back to the speech that Joe Biden gave to his staff at the White House moments ago, about a half an hour ago.
The same one we've heard clips
Yes.
from? Okay.
Yeah, I got one more clip for this because I want to get your thoughts on whether this is an attack at a jab at Donald Trump or whether what he means by this. But he did talk. It was a pretty good speech. And now that he's not running, there was no flubs or gaffes or Biden moments. He got off stage just fine. But he also said something about what this means about the elections. Listen to cut 20. Coming.
I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted, win or lose. I also hope we can restore the respect for all our election workers who busted their necks and took risks at the outset. We should thank them. Thank them for staffing voting sites, counting the votes, protecting the very integrity of the election.
Well, first of all, do you think it does set that question to rest? And do you think that right there he was taking a little jab at Donald Trump?
I think
open? Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, I think he was taking a jab at Trump. But since 2020, a lot of reforms have been made to enhance the integrity of the vote. Let me put it that way. There's things that have been put in place. One of the things is having more poll observers in place. We saw the problem in Philadelphia the other day when they wanted to keep some Republican observers out of the polling places. And the Republicans had a team of lawyers on the ready to go in there and go to court. And those districts in Philadelphia immediately allow those observers in. So I think things have changed since 2020, but I would agree this time around, as far as Biden saying things were more transparent, but I would thank Republican efforts for that.
Yeah, Alex, anything on that?
Yeah, the Republicans across the country they deserve credit because they've worked since the spring of this year to get volunteers, to hire staff, to prepare legal briefs in the event that they needed to, assert their rights for voter integrity. With fallen humans involved, there's always the chance for something fraudulent or dishonest. But the RNC across the country was ahead of the curve this time.
I don't remember Ray ever hearing about. I don't remember us having discussions about voter fraud and cheating and what happened here and what happened there before 2020.
There were that discussion was always there, Tim, but in the background, right? We didn't hear it in 2008 between John McCain and Barack Obama. Obama won, period, and he won re-election, period. But you got to say back in 2020. Give the Democrats credit, if that's the right word. Maybe a different word is appropriate. But they played the game better in 2020. The early voting, the mail-in ballots, working the system, gaming the system, if you will, so that across the country there was chaos on voting night and the nights that followed. And as Alex just said, a lot of changes were put in place in the last 4 years, and I think it paid off this week in a big way.
I heard a lot of talk coming up into this election with regard to how clean it was going to be with the phrase, make it too big to rig. In other words, if it's a blowout and they can't, it's just impossible to cheat that badly, or the early voting messed up the plans to bring the boxes out from under the table or whatever. There's all kinds of conspiracy theories, but there's the thought floating around that the blowout, because it was such a landslide, it's irrelevant to and the other thing I'm noticing is, because we heard a lot of threats or talk about, if Trump won, that there was going to be huge unrest in major cities and the country was going to erupt. I haven't heard that either, which is very good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard
By the way, for the record, Trump won by, it was 200,000 shy of 10 million votes.
Is this all the votes have been counted, even California?
The popular vote, well, I don't know, but it's roughly, I was reading about 2 hours ago, as of this morning, and of course, this might change, but, essentially a 10 million vote margin, that's strong. But, back in 2020, before we leave that topic, I remember in Colorado, in Aurora, Colorado, there was the Dominion voting machines. This was not just Colorado, but
be careful.
I was just going to say the
same
thing.
Be careful unless you want to write them a check, because we don't.
Yeah. Okay. So no, scratch that. Let me just
please. Thank you. They'll be calling us, not you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. So
just say certain things.
There were. I heard rumors, although I'm not saying yay or nay, of hard drives erased, and there were just legitimate questions about the security of the vote in 2020.
Yeah. All right. You're listening. Next story, Steve.
All right. So one of the things that Donald Trump has said he is going to do, speaking of election denying, is he said back during the campaign, remember he went and sat with a group of black journalists, kind of going into the Lion's Den. Everybody was kind of impressed that he'd go there. Well, he went there and they started talking about the January 6th prisoners. And the question was asked, are you going to pardon them? I want you to hear what he had to say at 18.
Would you pardon
What's
those
going to
people?
happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just they were convicted by a very tough system. How come the people that tried to burn down Minneapolis, how come the people that took over a large percentage of Seattle, how come nothing happened to them, but you went after the J6 people with a vengeance?
So he has promised to pardon the J6 prisoners. I talked to Sandy Rios a little bit ago, who's been neck deep in this issue. She really cares passionately about it, and she says she expects him to keep his word.
How many are there?
There are more than 1,265 defendants have been charged from all 50 states.
How many of them are sitting up there in jail? That's what I want to know. In D.C.
Yeah, 100 and I don't have the number exactly. It's 1,186 defendants have been charged with entering. 116 defendants have been charged with. I have the different charges.
All right.
I believe there's somewhere around.
He needs to just let them all go. He
Right.
needs to. What do you call it? Pardon. He needs. He has that authority, right?
Yes.
Once
he
becomes president, he can just pardon them all.
And I asked because if they were charged under state charges, then he wouldn't be able to. But D.C.
Listen, unless they vandalize the building or offices, or they got violent. Okay, people would say, might say, well, violent. What more violence do you need rather than ransack going into the building? No, there are a lot of these people. All they did was go into the building and walk around.
And some were let into the building, by the way.
Yeah, but they knew what they were doing. I'm not gonna let J6ers off the hook for entering the building when the proceedings were going on. They knew what they were doing was wrong. But the penalties was were way too harsh, and you hear about all these stories about not even getting a fair trial, a speedy trial, sitting in prison. That's just, you got violent criminals who get out every day.
Yes.
In America with hand slaps.
We don't sentence people to prison terms for
No.
breaking a glass.
No, they were being politically prosecuted.
Yes.
So he just, unless you assaulted a police officer, and we got it on videotape, and even that, how severe was it? And nobody gets 4 years.
No.
Or something like that. So he'll probably just let them all go, be done with it.
As of the 3-year mark, about they say approximately, I don't know how they approximate, 749 federal defendants have had their cases adjudicated and received sentences. 467 have been sentenced to periods of incarceration. 154 have been sentenced to periods of home detention, including 28 who are.
Yeah. So he just pardoned them all. Is that what he's going to do? Is what
That's
he
what
says?
he says he's going to do.
Yeah. All right, Alex. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
I just think the Lord is with our nation, and now we have an opportunity for freedom, stability, prosperity, to live out the Great Commission. I think the prayers of millions have been answered,
Amen.
and God is going to help our nation get back to being the Judeo-Christian republic we were designed to be.
Hey, may it be so. Amen. Thank you,
Amen.
Brother Alex. Look forward to hearing you
Blessings.
this afternoon. What are you and Bert going to be talking about?
We're starting Philippians chapter 3. And then, of course, tomorrow will be Fire Away Friday. So we've been going through the book of Philippians.
Okay. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Blessings.
That's Bert. That's Brother Alex McFarland, who he and Bert Harper host Exploring the Word.
Mm-hmm. Very popular show.
Afternoons. What do you think about the J6 issue, Ray?
If I were advising Mr. Trump, the one thing I would say is do it fast. Don't drag this thing out.
Right.
Don't.
Day one.
This kind of thing.
Day one.
Right. Day one. Do it day one. You've got between now and January, because, Tim, you made a good point. Not all the defendants are equal, right?
Right.
So some of them put themselves, by their actions, they ended up in prison. Those people should be considered one way, but a whole lot of people got draconian sentences for walking around inside, not touching anything. But whatever you do, Mr. President, do it quickly. Don't drag it out.
No, I agree. I totally agree. All right, you're listening to today's issues. Go ahead, Steve. Next story.
Pollsters are some are celebrating tonight, and they have corrected the deficits that they saw in the 2016 and the 2020 elections. Others are still pretty far off. So I know just Tim, you had said that you were fairly impressed with the Real Clear Politics averages polls.
They turned out to be pretty accurate.
They did. They had Trump winning all the battleground states except for 2, and they missed on 2. But it was Wisconsin and Michigan, so they were close anyway. So there was a poll that was done just a couple days before the election by pollster Ann Seltzer, and it was supposed to be the gold standard, and it had Harris vaulting ahead in Iowa, which, of course, the media picked all that up, and everything was going to change in the Midwest, and she was drastically wrong, as we saw. So she's going to be doing some soul searching. You might want to take a look.
Who's going to be doing soul searching?
Her name is Ann Seltzer.
What is her job?
Pollster.
Okay.
Based in Iowa.
Iowa.
She's with the Des Moines Register, I think.
And she said, I'm sorry, I missed that. She said, what did she say?
She said that Harris had jumped ahead in Iowa and was now leading in Iowa. Was going by she gained 7 points in the last days of the election.
And Trump ended up winning by what?
It's not close.
It wasn't even close.
She won by 12, maybe 12, 13, something like that.
Why would you say something like that?
Well, that's what her poll showed. Now,
well, her poll must have been her lefty friends at lunch.
Well, this is the whole debate. That was every poll seemed to be off in 2016. Remember, no one could figure out, well, how did this happen? Because they didn't see it. The headline the day before the election is Trump's chance of winning is 0. And then the next day in 2016 he won, and they were all off on 2020. Now she was off, and everybody seized on that poll. 538, Nate Silver. Sabato's crystal ball and The Economist all had Harris winning the election. Decision Desk HQ was the only major poll, at least listed here, that had Trump winning. But you know what's
you know what? Nobody really knew. Excuse me for interrupting. 3 weeks ago, it was a dead heat, and it was 50-50 who was going to win. It really was. You remember that? I mean, if you believe the Real Clear Politics polls, which Fred, you and I watch, and so it was 50-50. And then something happened in the last 3 weeks where I guess people who were undecided broke for Trump. The few that remained, they broke for Trump enough to give him a 1, 2, 3% margin of victory in almost all the swing states, and that was all. That's what he needed. So that's why he won. So, and the Real Clear Politics polls did show that as what would happen. Is that right, Fred?
Yep. No
Now,
question.
here's a source that we might. I don't know, Ray. You don't gamble, do you?
No.
No. But there's a site. You guys heard
expect him to admit to it?
Yeah, right.
I gave the right answer.
Yeah,
No.
Have you heard of a site called Polymarkets?
Oh, I followed it.
Yeah.
Multiple. I was probably on Polymarket 10 times a day the last week going into the election.
Polymarkets is how people wager on the elections, how their money is going, not just their opinions.
Right. It's real money.
It's real money, and
it's real money.
They were spot on, but down to the state. They called this election correctly, which to me says the people that are putting their money, they're not going to put money behind what they know is a political answer, not a realistic one. So just going forward, Polymarkets, don't bet, but go there for information.
You saw the guy in France. Some guy in France. I just read the article about him. He won $40 million. We're not in favor of gambling, okay? but I did see the article, because he put it on Trump. Trump to win big. All right, there you go. It is amazing, Steve. We'll leave it right there. That when real money is involved, you put your preferences aside, and they basically at the end they called it down to the state.
Yep.
Right.
I do to answer. To talk about this is me personally, and to only speak for myself. I do think the election this time was we didn't have any major issues out there that we saw across the country. You're going to have glitches. You're going to have problems. When you got 330 people, a country of 330 million people, you're going to have some issues, but nothing substantial. Nothing where we see a truck being driven from one place to another what I'm saying is I trust the results that happened. And listen, 2020 was, we were in the midst of COVID.
Pandemic,
and all these people were voting early. And they were almost all Democrats.
They changed the rules.
Yeah, changed the
Illegally,
rules.
in cases.
Yeah, there were things that went on regarding rules changes and so forth that were not secrets. They were used to aid and abet the Democrats in the vote counting. So
there's an argument to be made that even absent any voting issues at all, that election was stolen from Donald Trump by the media, who covered up the Hunter Biden laptop, which cost him, according to polls,
yeah, there were a lot of that.
But
But the media didn't go in and change the voting machines. But you're
no
right.
voting.
As far as influencing the voters, because they withheld critical information about Joe Biden. Yeah. All right. So, hey, that's yesterday's news. It's a new day, and President-elect Trump, I should say, will take office in January. And now the speculation is who will he choose to be on his team.
Yeah.
Very, very important. We were talking, Fred, off the air. You like the influence of Don Jr.
Yes.
And particularly Don Jr. on.
Yeah.
And Eric?
Yes, Don Jr. was interviewed this morning on Fox and Friends, and he talked about, he said, I don't think he's interested in a cabinet position himself, but he said he's going to be very involved in vetting people in the transition team and also when it comes to his dad's cabinet picks. Now, his dad has the final say, the president, but he says he is going to help his dad really screen these people. We know that in 2016, when he had his 4 years as president, he ran into trouble right away.
Oh, it was chaos.
With
For a lot
people
of it.
who were not loyal to him. And what John Jr. was saying this morning, we are going to look and vet people to ensure that they will be loyal to his dad, the president.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Eric Trump, too, has impressed me.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think those two were mainly responsible for him choosing J.D. Vance.
Yes, no question. And what a great pick that was.
Yeah, and J.D. Vance should help him,
Yes.
too, there.
Oh, yes.
Should help Trump in terms of who he will pick to surround himself with.
Mhm.
I do think Pompeo, if he wants to, would come back.
Yeah,
I don't know about Secretary of State, but Secretary of Defense, something like that.
he would be strong in either of those
Yeah.
jobs. That's for
Tim,
sure.
how do you like Marco Rubio for Secretary
I
of
like
State?
Marco Rubio.
Yeah, I do
and
too.
always have. So I think he would be a good addition.
Solid choice.
I would hate to lose him in the Senate, but
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Put DeSantis in there.
Yeah, I
His-
wouldn't mind seeing DeSantis in the Senate. He's
Yeah.
only got 2 years left as governor of Florida, and he would be an asset to the conservative side in the Senate. So.
Yes. Mr. Trump had trouble with the Secretary of State position in the first term. I think
No, he
Marco
didn't.
would be a.
No, I don't think he did. I'm serious. The Secretary of State
was Mike Pompeo.
Who was with
Well,
him
who
all
was
4
the,
years.
okay, but who was the Secretary of State in the beginning, the first one?
I think it was always Pompeo.
I know
You
what
may
you're
be
talking
thinking
about.
about the Secretary of Defense or something.
Okay, maybe I am. The
H.H.
fellow who
Trump.
that none of us had ever heard of.
Okay, this is
It's like a trivia question now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to bring
Listen,
it up here.
Not some of this is on Trump himself, okay?
Yes. Yes.
He needs to get his act together too.
Yes.
Well, and he
All
has.
right.
They talk about him learning
Well,
a whole
prove
lot
it.
of lessons.
Prove it. I hope he has. I hope he has, because after you get, a lot of people having to be fired around you over and over again, you have to go in the mirror and say, "What am I doing wrong? I've got to get it right." And so we all hope that Trump will, by getting it right, by surrounding himself with people. Rex Tillerson is who you're thinking about.
That's who I was thinking of. Right.
Yeah, Trump said he had a pea brain, I think, when he left. Huh?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. We can't have
Right.
we can't have Trump.
Can't
hire-
have pea brains
Well,
up there.
I want to
Sorry.
go. Well, who hired the pea brain?
Well,
Trump. Trump.
he'll
hired-
do better. He's going to do better this second time.
All right,
no
that-
doubt.
All right, let's all clap for that.
No
one.
doubt.
I think we can all agree.
No doubt.
Yes.
So I mean, he's the trust that the American people have put in Donald Trump is there, and so he needs to reciprocate by having some stability in his administration.
Yeah.
I think that's what we can hope to expect, right?
And I think his sons are going to help him.
Amen.
Yeah.
I agree. And J.D. Vance.
Yes.
All right, we see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day.